Hello students, I'm Dr. Himanshu Kanpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today we are going to study a figure of speech, conceit. What is a conceit? A conceit is a kind of metaphor that compares two very unlike things in a surprising and clever way. Often, conceits are extended metaphors that dominate an entire passage or poems. It is an unusually far-fetched or elaborate metaphor or simile presenting a surprisingly apt parallel between two apparently dissimilar things or feelings. As a literary device, a conceit uses an extended metaphor that compares two very dissimilar things. A conceit is often elaborate and controls a large section of a poem or the entire poem. Conceits are often quite unique and ingenious and can present striking juxtaposition and comparison of the unlike thing. Originally used as a synonym for idea or concept, conceit refers to a particularly fanciful figurative device that's intended to surprise and delight readers by its cleverness and wit. Because conceits make unusual and unlikely comparisons between two things, they allow readers to look at things in a new way. Similes and metaphors may explain things vibrantly, but they tend to become boring at times because of their predictable nature. Conceits, on the other hand, surprise and shock readers by making far-fetched comparisons. Hence, conceit is used as a tool in literature to develop interest in readers. So, what is conceit? Conceit originally meant a concept or image. In modern usage, however, conceit is the name of figure of speech which establishes a striking parallel, usually an elaborate parallel between two apparently dissimilar things or situations. Here I am going to give a detailed definition of a conceit by the writer Alan Tate. He says, it is an idea not inherent in the subject but exactly parallel to it, elaborated beyond the usual stretch of metaphor into a supporting structure for a long passage or even an entire poem. It may be torn away from its original meaning and yet remain the vehicle of poetic truth, that is to say, of heightened emotion in the poet's dramatization of his own personality. A conceit is clever or unusual metaphor or comparison. It is a technical term. Conceits are ordinarily defined as humorous or witty thoughts or expressions. Examples of poems in which the writer make use of one of or more conceits: The Flea by John Donne, Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Emily Dickinson, To His Coy Mistress by writer Andrew Marvell, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Here I am going to give you an example of conceit in Donne's A Valediction Forbidding Mourning. The conceit of this poem by John Donne is that two lovers are described as the 2 points of a compass. If they be two, they are two so as stiff twin compasses are two. Thy soul fixed, the fixed foot makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. And though it in the centre sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect as that comes home. In this poem, Donne uses the simile of stiff twin compasses. The woman is like the fixed foot which remains firm in the center, while the man is like the other foot roaming far and wide. And this is most famous example of Donne's poetic conceits. English poets of the 16th and 17th centuries adapted the term from the Italian concetto. Two types of conceits are often distinguished by specific names. Here we are going to have a look at the two types of conceits. The first one is Petrarchan conceit, which was especially popular with Renaissance writers of sonnets, is a hyperbolic comparison most often made by a suffering lover of his beautiful mistress to some physical object, example, a tomb, the ocean, etc. Edmund Spenser's Epithalamion, for instance, characterizes the beloved's eyes as being like sapphires, shining bright, with her cheeks like apples which the sun hath ruddied, and her lips like cherries charming men to bite. In these works of art, the writer uses an unlikely connection between a natural element and a lover. Petrarchan conceits show you the beauty and grace of their love through magnanimous comparisons. Here is an example from Spenser's Epithalamion. Her goodly eyes like sapphires, shining bright, her forehead ivory white, her cheeks like apples with the sun, which the sun hath ruddied, her lips like cherries, charming men to bite. So, the Petrarchan conceit is a type of figure used in love poems which had been novel and effective in the Italian poet Petrarch, but often became hackneyed in his imitators, the Elizabethan sonneteers. The figure consists of detained and exaggerated comparisons applied to the disdainful mistress, as cold and cruel as she is beautiful, and to the distresses and despair of the worshipful lover. In Epithalamion, it is easy to see how the conceit was used to discuss features of his love. Not only were his eyes compared to sapphires, but her skin to ivory, her cheeks to apples, and her lips to cherries. The metaphysical conceit is a characteristic feature in John Donne and other metaphysical poets. It is associated with the metaphysical poets of the 17th century. It is more intricate and intellectual device. It is described by Dr. Johnson in a passage in his Life of Cowley as wit, which is a kind of discordia conquers, a combination of dissimilar images, or a discovery of occult resemblances in things apparently alike. The metaphysical poets exploited all knowledge, commonplace or practical, theological, true or fabulous, for the vehicles of these figures and their comparisons. The metaphysical conceit usually sets up an analogy between one's spiritual qualities, and an object in the physical world, and sometimes controls the whole structure of the poem. Metaphysical conceits, like those in the poems of John Donne, make long and unlikely comparison between two things, for instance, like comparing a flea to the physical union of two lovers. Other examples of John Donne poems are Good Morrow, A Valediction Forbidding Mourning, and Sunrising. The metaphor might feel strained because the two things being compared are in fact very different, or because it's extended over such a long stretch of text that the poet exhausts the metaphor. The Flea by John Donne. Oh, stay 3 lives in 1 flea spare, where we almost, nay more than merit are. This flea is you and I, and this our marriage bed and marriage temple is, though parents grudge and here met and clustered in these living walls of jet. we find sharp contrast to both the concepts of conventional Petrarchan in dance. The Flea is a poem that uses a flea who has bitten both lovers as the basic reference for its argument against the lady's coyness. In this poem, Flea Donne uses creative and complex analogies to compare the lover's sexual union to the bite of a flea. The flea is an excellent example of how Donne was able to establish parallel between two very different things. In other poem of Donne, that is Sun Rising, as we have all of the have read the poem Sun Rising, he uses metaphysical wit and extravagant conceits are employed in glorifying his beloved. So, the flea is a perfect example of a metaphysical conceit. The entire poem itself uses a flea bite as a way to talk a lover into a sexual relationship. Donne uses creative and complex analogies to compare their sexual union to the bite of a flea. Since their blood already mixed in the flea, they are already connected like they would be in a sexual union. With the advent of Romanticism, the conceit fell into disfavor along with other poetic artifices. In the late 19th century, it was revived by French symbolists. It is commonly found, although in brief and condensed form, in the works of such modern poets as Emily Dickinson, T.S. Eliot, and Ezra Pound. The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. Let us go, then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky like a patient etherized upon a table. In modern poetry, metaphysical conceits have become condensed like in the love song of J. Alfred Prufrock. In his opening line, Eliot uses the conceit to create a shocking image of night sky compared to a person strapped to a table and waiting for surgery. It is a very stark and bold contrast that jars the reader. The conceit becomes even bold when you compare it to the title, since it is supposed to be a love song. Thus, following the great revival of the metaphysical poets in 1920s, a number of poets exploited this type of conceit. The example is T.S. Eliot's love song of J. Alfred Prufrock, Dylan Thomas in memory of N. Jones. The popularity for such conceit extended even to popular love songs in the 1920s and later by well-educated composers such as Cole Porter, You Are the Cream in My Coffee, and You Are the Top. Conceit was a very popular literary device at one point in time and is not necessarily used all that much nowadays. However, many authors still like to create an unusual or even far-fetched extended metaphor that counts as a conceit example in order to surprise and intrigue their readers. Here I would like to mention something more. Conceits often employ the devices of hyperbole, paradox, and oxymoron. Though the use of conceit writers are able to provide a new way of looking at a situation or object, Frank O'Hara's poem To the Harbour Master is a much more recent example of conceit. Adrienne Rich's poem Diving into the Wreck is another contemporary conceit example. This is all about the literary term conceit. Here I would like to repeat it again. What is a conceit? It is usually an unusually a far-fetched or elaborate metaphor or simile presenting a surprisingly apt parallel between two apparently dissimilar things or feelings. Under the Petrarchan influence, poetry of Renaissance cultivated fanciful comparisons and conceit to a high degree of ingenuity, either as the basis for whole poems, notably Donne's The Flea, or as an incidental decorative device. So, poetic conceits are prominent in Elizabethan love sonnets, in metaphysical poetry, etc. I hope you like the video, like, share and subscribe. Thank you.